Hello everybody and welcome to Detective Human and the Art Gallery Murder, a Let's Play. So I did this using a slideshow that just interchanges every couple seconds. That was pretty easy with just regular HTML. Then you can see that when you hover over these people, you get little dialogues, you get this. When you hover over, they highlight. That was just for fun. And then we want to go here. And you have these talk options, these talk buttons. And see, it loads a new page you can see. So back. And then it saves what stage you were at. So we're just going to get through this. And then you see that you'll get your little inventory. So let's just click through. Boop. And now you have this item. I'll explain how I did that with using web actions. You can see this, and then let's just go back to the start so you can see how everything resets when you start a new game. There we go, and see, we don't have our items anymore, and these are back to where they were previously. So then you can go here and show items, and let's just write these other areas. You can't do anything with these guys. I didn't get to do that. I was kind of busy trying to learn how to do HTML again. And what you'll want to do is you can show the millipede, show the person, like Detective Sebi, and he'll make commentary. And then what you want to do, you show the poison, and that's the end of the demo. That was Detective Human and the Art Gallery Murder, made by me, Gianna Rasmussen, aka Jeeb, for my Symbolic programming final. Why a point-and-click adventure game? I thought it'd be fun, I've always wanted to, and Wizard Adventure, known by some as Wizard Quest from our textbook, was so fun to make, but I really wanted to try it as a point-and-click adventure instead of something that's text-based, and I thought it was going there, and when it didn't, I decided that's what I'll do for my final. Of course, I did decide instead of Wizard Quest / Adventure, I would do Andy Bass, a webcomic I write for and helped create. But Jeeb, why would you do that to yourself? Especially since you pitched this without knowing how to implement a web server with Lisp. Because I'm dramatic like that. And the result, I learned a lot. Before beginning this project, I had no idea what aserv or web actions were, or at all how they worked. Now I'm super comfortable with working with both, and I'd like to tell you about them. So let's talk about Allegro Serve. Allegro Serve, or aserv as I typically call it, and we'll probably refer to it as that from now on, is what makes it possible to run the program, and it's used to do network programming on Lisp. So it basically is just how I translate this into something I can load up on a web server. So you just have to start it with net.aserv, start, port, then the port number. This really matters a lot less, but I just always use that one, and then you shut it down with net.aserv shutdown. So pretty easy. So then what are web actions and CLP files? Web actions are loaded with aserv and interact with CLP or Common Lisp server pages. That's what CLP stands for. I don't know why it's not CLSP, but whatever. CLP files are basically just HTML files. They can't contain Lisp code, however, can contain CSS and JavaScript code, and I'll be talking about why that is important a bit later. But by using web actions, the CLP files are able to store data into sessions and rewrite the browser URLs, which you can see over here on this little web action project map. You can think of this a bit like using, with Wizard Adventure, it had a sort of map for the functions, and it would just change areas and was a description. That's kind of the same thing, except it was more of a using this code word through location. If it equals that, it does these actions. It goes to here, here first, and then here. So start, the start page basically goes to here. The pre-gallery page, which happens when you click start, is what would it go to next? And so it just does all these things. This middle thing is actually a function that is executed beforehand. So anything in between the CLP page and this is a function, or if it just doesn't have the quotations, it's not. It's a function instead of a CLP file, which is obvious. So to make this project, I did utilize Aserve and Web Actions. So this is the package which first, when it's loaded, it makes sure that you have Aserve and Web Actions available, and then it defines the package detective human. Then on the second reload, it will start up the detective human, which you can see up here, file which has the Web Actions. Wait a minute, back up. CLP files are basically just HTML files? Yeah, about 90% of the code I wrote was CLP code, which meant this project's unexpected challenge was recalling how to code a website normally. And let me tell you, it was super time consuming because I haven't done it in a hot minute. So yeah, so you can see over here, all these CLP files are different web pages. And it was a bit annoying, but honestly rewarding. So let's talk about the tutorial phases, which were the first things I made. So you can see here from the map this tutorial directory. That is because I wanted to load up different things and reveal different things, such as like you saw in the tutorial. In the Let's Play, you saw that it revealed the profiles and then the inventory in phase 3, and then it had this ending bit where you couldn't go back. That was because I didn't want them to be initially displayed, but I had no clue how to do that. I would figure out how to do it later, but basically what I did instead was this, where I had a tutorial page that was set in the action init, which you can see over here, and it was set to the tutorial phase 1, and then as it moved, it would reset this variable to the different tutorial phases. So the only reason I actually did end up keeping this is because it kind of was just a display of knowledge and just this fun little thing I did to work around what I didn't know yet. So it was just interesting to see how I could change the web session variable and how it would stay. Now let's look at what I did when I figured out how to fix this. So this is on the CLP files, and this is from JavaScript. Basically, what happens is when it loads, it checks if you have in your available items, which is a CLP function, if you have a millipede. If you don't, it displays this, which is set to initially display none. So if it is on display, you can click it, and it will go to this function add mill. Add mill will just display this dialog block, and on click, it will change the location to add milli. What will that do? Let's. Here we go. So once it goes to add milli, it will add milli, which will just push to inventory the millipede, and then it will go back to and reload the page. So an action init, I talked about this a little briefly. It just resets the session variables every time restart is called. Initially, I had a lot of trouble with this because I was using Grand Theft Wumpus Online as my guide, which saves a structure to the web session. That doesn't work. I believe that is because first off, it would always be saved as the same name. And when you try to rewrite it, it just sometimes wouldn't. Like, you couldn't get anything out. And I know there's a workaround that, I'm sure, but I found it was far easier to just save these as two different session variables. And there wasn't really any problem with it. Honestly, the structure was far too complex for what it was doing, so I just got rid of it. And here you can see the add milli and the other ads, which just push the item on. Honestly, now that I'm more familiar with it, I think I could have just done a a defined CLP function, which let me see. Here it is on the next slide, which just is called directly in the code. So here you can see it also has this request and args and body. This is just the set from request session, the entry. This is not that important really. The only thing I've ever focused on is the args, which didn't make it into the final code, but it's just you can add arguments to this. Anyway, so basically what I could have probably done, I think, is I could have instead given it arguments to say, well, what's the web server it's on, and what is the item being added. I think that would have been a lot more efficient than doing all of these. But you live and you learn, and to be honest, it's pretty cool that I can just be like, yeah, I think I could have made this simpler. It feels great. Anyway, so I also struggled with the fact that I had different JavaScript functions and CSS things. I had that all saved into a script, but for some reason, show inventory couldn't be on it. Why is that? It's a CLP function. It can only run in a CLP file. It seems obvious, but it took me a while to realize why this wasn't working. So that's just a small note. So what did I learn? CLP, despite its name, is primary HTML, and you can only call CLP functions inside of them. If you want to work with args within a CLP function, treat it like a list because it is just a list. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. Web session variables are amazing, and you should use them when you need to store session-specific information. Really, they are great, and they're the main reason that you are able to just store information like inventory, which is optional for what order you go in. So I just think that's pretty good. Anyway, that's that. Bye.